there's a difference between product marketing and corporate marketing, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Can you share a little bit what the differences are for people listening and are confused of what we're talking about?
Absolutely. Yeah. That's a, so when people think about marketing, even before we talk about PMM, right, product marketing, and I'll talk about my experience as a enterprise marketing person, right, and obviously creating a startup in this space, I have a different opinion, a little bit different opinion for smaller companies. But even before that, if you talk about marketing, people think about the hoardings that you see, or mostly advertising, right?
Yep.
It's mostly advertising. People think about the logo, right, for lack of better words, like the branding.
Yeah.
Branding, right? So those are all great things, but things that you communicate to the wider audience in terms of the brand. And don't get me wrong, I mean, brand could mean different things, but the way you choose your artistic representation of the brand, or your PR, like that you communicate to the world as a company, right? That is all corporate marketing. Corporate marketing is something that's the voice of a company, the voice of the brand as such, of the entire company, of the entire organization. Product marketing, on the other hand, typically at Cisco, is something that you do for a specific business unit or a specific product.
Yeah.
Right. And that's not, and obviously you have to consider the corporate marketing voice into it. You have to be consistent in what you say. But product marketing, again, is, and traditionally has been defined, and I have a different take on it, but it's traditionally defined as something which sits at the intersection of engineering, product management, and customer support. And you can argue it's all of the above or none of the above. And in my opinion, it's, the product marketing function is, the difference is just like a sales engineering group, except we are trying to establish a channel of trust, if you will, right? Establish trust at scale. There's so many prospects out there who do not know what do you guys do, or what your product does. And your job as a PMM is to communicate or establish a channel, at least with the prospects. And that may come through many activities, right? Product launches, you talk about your positioning and you talk about your messaging. All of these are PMM, right? All of these things are done by a PMM manager.
Yeah. I like that. I like sales engineering at scale is product marketing, basically. Like the sales engineers have the personal relationships with the customers, which you may not have, but you can touch more customers. So the more effective you are as a PMM, which starts with product marketing manager, right?
It's a
yeah. The easier our job is, because now we have the story already from our PMM, and also, you can share stories, and you can take stories that you learned from SEs and use that for your product marketing.
Absolutely. And that's so critical, because especially, I mean, enterprise products are, it's a beast, right? I mean, this already established products. You think about Cisco, I mean, you can say so many things, but people already know what you do, kind of. But if you come down, to a smaller company, that gets a little challenging, because now with the product-led movement going on, marketing is not just good enough to create a marketing qualified lead. I mean, if the marketing qualified lead and the sales qualified lead, if the gap is too big, then I think it's not good enough. So that's for that reason, I think, and because the customer is going to talk to the sales at a later point in the journey now,
yep.
The product, that function is coming closer. And I would think a PMM should really be tied to the hip with the SE in capturing the use cases, and and then convert all of that into the voice of the customer, or the messaging or the positioning of your product. So you are all on the same page, and customer is not, other customer knows what can be expected out of the engagement that comes at a marketing or a sales level.
Something you just mentioned there is really interesting. So yeah, for sure, find that alignment, or I guess closing that gap between what's an SQL or sales qualified lead versus an MQL, marketing qualified lead, because it ends up in sales's hands in the end, is super important. But that's really interesting to me, because I never realized that there was a big difference between the two. In that, have you found in your experience that the expectations from, I suppose, marketing versus the expectations from sales with respect to what is a qualified lead, are they very different across organizations?
Absolutely. So again, I'll put on my Cisco hat, because the experience from that aspect. A marketing qualified lead really, because we are a product, our motivation is we are measured by how many leads we generate. So our goal is not really don't quote me on this, but my job really is not to make sure that, Ramsey signs up for a newsletter, you sign up for a newsletter, as long as you did, right? And as long as I can pass you guys on to the sales guy, I don't know really, are you the right kind of guys? Should my SC get on the demo call with you just to realize, oh, it was a waste of time, right? So marketing qualified lead at many times, on many occasions, may not be the sales qualified lead. Once you say, okay, this makes sense, let's have further conversation, then it becomes a sales qualified lead. And for that reason, I mentioned MQL and SQL are different. For a smaller company, again, you never know. It could be one and the same. If because of the smaller marketing teams and a close alignment with both the teams could be talking to each other. At that point, your messaging, or if you have like a little demo or something, then the prospect really knows, okay, this is great. I really, really want to know about this. At that point, it could be a sales qualified lead. There could be one and the same. So it really depends on where you're coming or approaching this from. And it's still MQL is marketing owned and SQL is sales owned. So at the end of the day, it's always going to be different.
It's funny about MQL. A lot of times, me as a sales engineer, I'm doing research into a company. So I'm going in, I'm downloading a white paper, and all of a sudden I get an email from a sales representative trying to sell me something, except I was trying to do research so I can sell you something. So yeah, like MQLs, I haven't had a lot of success with MQLs, mainly because I already know most of my customers and there aren't that many new ones coming up.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
You're right. At bigger companies, it may not be as valuable, and but for a smaller company, when that lead comes in, and that's where we are trying to do something with SnackWise, where our goal is to make sure that people who actually click on that request a demo button are really meaning to have a demo for lack of anything else. I mean, if there's nothing else, the customer, the prospect will click on the request a demo button because there's nothing else to do. All right. Yeah. But maybe we can qualify them a little bit earlier on and bring it to you, to the sales guys. Then it might be a little bit more better in terms of saving you guys time and headache.